all the world was suffering from the famine. All of Egypt was suffering from it. And they all come to Joseph. Joseph was supplying them from the storehouses that he had prepared, from the stores of grain that he prepared during the 7 years of plenty. Now had come the 7 years of famine, of dearth, of scarcity. Joseph was supplying them. Joseph was in charge of supplying them. Whilst he was doing that, he was also reforming Egypt. He was moving people around from one city to another, from one area to another, and reforming certain aspects of their social habits, of their social society. And he was in charge of the whole show, of everything that was going on. And people were coming from overseas, from outside of Egypt, to buy grain. And in Canaan, they also were suffering from the grain. Canaan is close to Egypt, attached to Egypt. And Canaan was also suffering from a lack of grain, a lack of food. And so Yaakov was sending the brothers down to buy food for them and to replenish their stocks at home, and for their families and for themselves. And so they came to Joseph. So maybe ask, why did they come to Joseph? How was it they would come to Joseph? Joseph was supplying everyone. There were a lot of people coming from all over the place. They must have numbered in their thousands and tens of thousands even. People were coming from all over and buying it. So how could Joseph be certain that if Joseph had planned it, that the brothers should come to him, how could he be certain they would do so? So apparently he ensured he had ways and means of knowing, and when they came, he arranged that they should have an audience with him. And when they had an audience with him, he accused them of spying. So this is a partial explanation, because when you have regular cases of people coming from overseas, people coming from here, coming from there, you have ordinary bureaucrats who deal with them. That's their job. To bring them in, to process them and pass them on, and to sell them what they want to buy, whatever they have to do. But if they are suspected of espionage, then the highest authorities in the land are going to be involved in it, are going to take an interest in it. So therefore Joseph could justify his personal interest in what the brothers are doing and what they are doing there, and personally question them and interrogate them on the basis that he suspects them of espionage. And so therefore the Egyptians would not latch on, they would not catch on unto what his real intentions were before he wanted it to be made known. So when the brothers came in, Joseph interrogated them, and using the excuse that he suspected them of being spies, he was able to ask all kinds of personal questions and to get details from them. And he learned from them that their father was still alive and that Benjamin, his brother, was at home. And so he said unto them, he said that he suspects them of being spies. He also imprisoned them for 3 days and released them, gave them grains for their families, but told them that one of them would have to remain as surety. And the next time they come, they'd have to bring Benjamin with them. So we are told in Genesis 42:21, and they said to one another, truly we are guilty concerning our brother, because we saw the distress of his soul when he pleaded with us. But we would not listen, therefore this distress has come upon us. Reuben answered them, saying, did I not tell you, do not sin against the boy? You would not listen. Now comes the reckoning for his blood. So Reuben remonstrated with them. And he said, when I told you not to sin against the boy, not to harm him, you would not listen. Apparently Reuben, as we see, Reuben had gone away expecting to come back and release Joseph. And when he came back, he did not find Joseph. And meanwhile, the brothers had informed Jacob that they had found the cloak of Joseph, blood-stained cloak, and that Joseph and Jacob had assumed that Joseph had been killed. And Reuben also assumed it. Reuben was not necessarily in on the secret as to them having sold him. In the commentary of Saforno, Rabbi Avijah ben Yaakov Saforno, 1475-1550 in Italy, he points out that the brothers, when they remonstrated with each other, when they recriminated each other, they condemned each other for not having listened to Joseph when he had pleaded to be released. They had not hearkened to his pleas, not hearkened to his pleas for mercy, to release him. They had not hearkened to his pleas for mercy, to release him, to return him to his father, and not to do this thing to him. But they accused each other of being heartless in this matter, and now having to face punishment before it. But they never said that the decision to kill him had been mistaken. That they did not regret, they did not express regret for. So therefore we have to look into it a little bit more, because it is the cause of everything that happened. So Simeon was kept back, and the brothers returned home, and they supplied their families with the foodstuffs and so on. But after a while, the stocks became too diminished, and it was clear that they would need more food, have to go down again. And Genesis 42, verse 37 tells us, then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, then Reuben asked their father, Jacob, to allow them to return to bring Benjamin with them in order to get foodstuffs. And the father didn't want to. He was afraid of losing Benjamin after having already lost Joseph. And Genesis 42:37 says, Reuben spoke to his father, saying, you may put my two sons to death. If I do not bring him back to you, put him in my care, and I will return him to you. But Jacob said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If harm should befall him on the journey you are taking, then you will bring my grey hair down to Sheol, that is the place of the souls after death, in sorrow. So Jacob refused the offer of Reuben that he should hold two of his sons as surety. So they continued, they did, nothing happened. But as time went on, the stocks became lower and lower, and eventually they didn't have that much left. So it was obvious that they'd have to go back to Egypt. They would have to take Benjamin with them. So Judah then offered himself as a guarantee to Jacob, their father. Judah said to his father Israel, Israel is another name for Jacob. Jacob was renamed Israel. And Judah said to his father Israel, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go. Where this word lad means child, means boy. And in Hebrew you also have the word yelad, which is similar, also meaning boy. As we just noted, it's worth noting. And then Judah continued, Judah said to his father Esau, send the lad with me, and we'll arise and go, that we may live and not die, and we as well as you, and our little ones, I myself will be surety for him, I will be a guarantee for him. You may hold me responsible for him if I do not bring him back to you and set him before you. Then let me bear the blame before you forever. For if we had not delayed, surely by now we could have returned twice. If we had have gone at the beginning when we saw that the stocks were low, we could have already gone there and come back twice over. So they went and they came to Egypt. And they came to Joseph. Joseph received them well. He received them well. And they came to Egypt. Joseph received them well, and they dined with him. And he gave them gifts, and he treated Benjamin with great respect, and they gave him extra foods and showed favor to him. But he told his servants to plant his chalice, his precious cup, in the packaging, in the baggage of Benjamin. Then when the brothers went out, he sent mounted soldiers after them to overtake them and to search their baggage, and they found the cup of Joseph in it, and they returned. And then Joseph, and apparently this was very valuable, and so Joseph said that now Benjamin will have to remain as a slave forever, whereas the other brothers could go. But Judah objected. And he said, we see, as we find in Genesis 44, that Judah came near to him and said, "Oh, my Lord, please let your servant speak a word in my Lord's hearing, and let not your anger burn against your servant. Have you a father or a brother?" And we said to my Lord, Genesis 44:18, and Judah came near to him and said, "Oh Lord, please let your servant speak a word in my Lord's name, and do not let your anger burn against your servant. For you are even like Parah. My Lord asked your servants that as you asked us, have you a father or a brother? And we said to my Lord, we said to you, we have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age who is young. His brother is dead, and he alone is left. He alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes on him. And we said to your father, the lad cannot leave his father. If he should leave his father would die. But you said to your servants, unless your younger brother comes down with you, you shall not see my face no more. So it was when we went up to your servant, my father, that we told him the words of my Lord, that we told him what you said. And our father said, go back and buy us a little food. But we said, we cannot go down if our youngest brother is not with us. Then we will go down. If our youngest brother is with us, then we will go down. For we may not see the Lord's face, for we may not see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Then your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons, and the one went out from me. And I said, surely he is torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. He believed that Joseph had been killed by a wild beast. Joseph had disappeared. But if he takes one also from me, and calamity befalls him, shall bring down my grey hair with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore, this is still Joseph speaking, there's still Judah. This is still Judah speaking to Joseph. Now therefore, when I come to your servant my father, and the lad is not with us, since his life is bound up in the lad's life, it will happen, when he sees that the lad is not with us, that he will die. So your servants will bring down the grey hair of your servant our father with sorrow to the grave. But your servant became surety for the lad to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father forever. Now therefore please let your servant remain instead of the lad as a slave to my lord. Let the lad go up with his brothers. For how shall I go up to my father if the lad is not with me? Lest perhaps I see the evil that would come upon my father. So Judah was offering himself to remain as a slave forever in place of Benjamin. And Rabbi David Moshe Valley in Padua, Italy, near Venice, he says the intention of Joseph was to administer the punishment. He, Judah, had become liable for measure for measure. Judah had first suggested selling Joseph as a slave. Now he could atone for it by accepting the penalty and becoming a slave himself. So now, Judah had suggested that Joseph should be taken up out of the pit and sold to the Ishmaelites, and not left in the pit to die. And Joseph had been pleading that they do not do this, but they did it. And so now Joseph was causing Judah to feel the anguish of himself being sold as a slave, or even worse, having to see his younger brother Benjamin sold as a slave, where Judah had guaranteed to their father that nothing would befall him. So Joseph was playing cat and mouse with him in order to cause him to realize the anguish that had come upon him because of Judah. And in this way, this would be a cathartic process, a catharsis, that as if Judah would be purified of the offense that he had committed against Joseph. Now we have another point that when Judah came up to Joseph and started playing with him, he said, "Oh, my Lord, let my servant, oh, my Lord, let your servant, I pray you, speak a word in your ear." So he begins, Bi nishbati, Bi Adoni, that is literally, please, my Lord, let me speak unto you. And he begins his address by Bi Adoni, literally, in me, my Lord. But a great rabbi, the Safat Ahmed, a great commentator, Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Leib Alta, 1847-1905, he gave it a different explanation to this. He said, Bi Adoni, Bi can also mean in me, Bi Adoni is the strength of lordship, of being the master, as if to say, Bi Adoni. And Judah was speaking out of the desperation, the intense emotional upheaval that he was experiencing. And that happens then, sometimes people say things that only deep down in their subconscious did they ever exist. And he was, if to say, prophesying for the future. And also, these words, the words Bi Adoni, may also be understood to mean in me. In me is your lordship, your power, your ability to rule is through me. We're speaking of the future, that the different tasks of Judah and Joseph would be reciprocal in a sense, in a mystical sense. That through Judah doing his task, learning and praying and keeping the commandments, would Joseph have the power to rule over the peoples of the earth and to rectify them and advance them and improve them, which was to be his task in the future. Judah was not necessarily conscious of this. He was speaking through his subconscious, was allowing the words to emerge from his mouth. This was like a type of prophecy that he had. So that is of interest.